Our next panel will focus on e-mall to omnichannel, setting the stage for collaboration success. Online majors have invested heavily in the infrastructure to set up very successful e-tail and e-malls. Their partnership with retailers and distributors has resulted in a win-win situation for the products and services that they've partnered with. But there are always challenges and there are always problems when experimenting with such alliances. This conclave will discuss success stories and the strategy for future win-win models, as well as various other aspects that go along with such an alliance. Let's meet our power-packed panel. We've got two co-anchors. Please put your hands together for founder and managing director, Wazir Advisors, Harbinder Saini. Please put your hands together for Chief Operating Officer, Ace Turtle, Berry Singh. Fashion business has Ask Me Bazaar, Kapil Bhatia. Let's hear it for Director, Flipkart, Kinshu Sinha. A warm welcome to Chief Executive Officer and Co-founder, Yetme, Vivek Kaur. Let's put our hands together for Head of Marketplace, Vunik, Rameshwar Mishra. Chief Marketplace Officer, Jabong, Ranjan Kant. A warm welcome to Head Lifestyle, Tata Unistore, Sarvesh Dwivedi. Let's put our hands together for Managing Director, No Exit Clothing, Gurpreet Singh Boprani. A warm welcome to the Vice President Marketing, Being Human, Kunal Mehta. Let's hear it for Director, RMKV, Niranjana Vishwanathan. Vice President Sales and Business Development, SSIPL Retail, Pradyuman Raina. A warm welcome to the Vice President Marketing and Strategy, Genesis, Rohit Khetan. Chief Executive Officer, Soham Shop, Sandeep Jalan. Managing Director, JD's Apparels, Ritu Wears Big Life, Sanjay Sahani. Chief Executive Officer, Saffron Lifestyle, Sumita Hucha. And Chief Operating Officer, SaveMax Wholesale Club, Aman Mittal. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together for our fabulous panel on stage out here. Can we have a round of applause for them? Thank you. But it doesn't end here because we've got an off-stage panel as well, and we'd like to welcome them equally warmly. Please put your hands together for Director, Study by Janak, Ayush Mehra. Director Options, The Fashion Mall, Dharmesh Patel. Co-founder and business head, Setu E-Tail, Ishwar Setu. Chief Executive Officer, Akbar Ali's, Jagdish Purohit. Chairman and Managing Director, V-Mart Retail, Lalit Agarwal. Managing Director, Blue Tonic, Rajesh Ghanchani. Executive Director, Jade Blue, Shambhav Chauhan. And the proprietor, Blue Club Collection, Sunny Bharani. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a packed panel, we've got a packed house, and we are all set for some very interesting times. It's over to Harbinder Saini and Berry Singh, our moderators.
So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So you can see that we are dealing with something fairly confusing here. That's why we got so many people to discuss it. So we are trying to figure out in this whole chaos of online, offline, omni-channel, multi-channel, and I don't know what. I'm not so tech-savvy about these things. I only understand brand, I understand consumer. So let's see. So what most of the people today, they are asking this question about online, offline. In fact, they were asking till now, and now they are saying omni-channel, everything will survive together. But I remember being in the industry for such a long time, 20 years ago, people used to say, will even people buy ready-made shirts? So just think about it. That was a big question, which we were supposed to answer for many of our clients who were selling fabrics under their brand names. And they said that, why will people buy a ready-made shirt? Right? And then people started buying ready-made shirt. Then said, why will somebody buy a ready-made trouser? Shirt to chalta hai, but trouser everybody wants their own fit. And then fast forward, and people said, will anybody come to malls? And a lot of people, why will anybody go to malls? It's so expensive, everything is pricey. You pay rents, you pay for air conditioning, it doesn't make sense. And now people are asking question, why anybody will buy clothing online? Right? Surprise, surprise, people are buying clothing online, and now people are saying, oh. And then when it turns like this, nobody will buy a tailor-made shirt. No one will buy a ready tailor-made trouser. Nobody will ever buy outside mall. Nobody will buy without going online. But the truth of the matter is everything exists and coexists, and the consumers take their own call in terms of when do they want to buy, what do they want to buy, and how often they want to buy, and what they want to buy, continuously what they want to buy infrequently. It's the consumer basis. They take the call. So there are no consumer, I think, anywhere in the world who will say that I am an online consumer, right? But there can be a lot of consumers, at least in India, millions of them, who will say that I am not an online consumer. So to the offline world, the message from my side is very, very clear that you own the consumers, while the online world is trying to acquire the consumer, right? And I was just telling our panelists that this customer acquisition term will be banned in next 12 months at max, because the people who are funding this whole customer acquisition drive, they are going to tell people, please do not even use this term in our office, otherwise don't even show us your business plan for funding. Just get lost from here. So the customer acquisition, which we have been talking about, offline world already has it. And now, why are still some people moving to online? Because they see value in it. They see convenience, they see range, they see pricing, they see bigger catalog. So there is a great amount of value which you see that they are buying, and they are early adapters, some pioneers, and few people have followed, but millions of people are buying online. And given that, and this is the new thing. I will not call it the future. It's here. Future is something when you say it's future because you are saying everything was going to shift to this. No, that's not going to happen in my lifetime, I hope. So if it has to shift, I was just again mentioning that if it has to shift, then the next thing is already inside, 3D printing. Why we online, offline? Everybody will print everything at home. Why any kind of stores are required for that matter? So technology may do things which we can't even imagine, but till the time that happens, I believe we are here to coexist. And here, then, this thing about online versus offline is something which is very, very negative, which can hurt everybody involved. And we are here to look for the possible answers and possible ways to collaborate. And we have good representation from online world, from the offline world, and some people who are already in multi-channels and who are trying omni-channel. And without talking too much about it from my completely theoretical or a armchair assessment, let's talk to the people who have actually done it. And I'll hand it over to my friend Barry here, who will introduce all the people and then take you through. We are targeting 6 questions which we are trying to look and answer for, and so Barry will explain that part to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Harminder, and hello, everybody. So when I came over here and met some old friends and colleagues, so we thought that we had the only session on omni-channel, but it seems from whole day, we have been bombarding you with a lot of stuff on omni-channel. So just to give you an analogy on omni-channel, so omni-channel is like a teenage sex. Everybody talks about it. Nobody knows how to do it. Everybody claims they are doing it, and even the people who are not doing it are claiming that they plan to do it. So without going further, Sumit, starting with you, why don't you introduce to the panel?
I am Kapil. I head fashion for AskMeBazaar.com. We are 8 diversities operating as grocery, as fashion, as a giant in electronics, a diversity into furniture retailing, another diversity into a next day delivery model, which is basically the hyphenated Omni that we're talking about, into SME financing. It's a legacy of 1986. Yellow Pages has been rechristened as Get It, which is AskMeBazaar.com.
Great.
Good evening. My name is Kinshu Sinha. I'm responsible for seller marketing and SME business development at Flipkart.com. Flipkart started in 2007 as a books retailer and diversified into multiple other categories over the next few years. We introduced some of the most promising features of e-commerce in India, namely cash on delivery and 30-day replacement policies. I think our journey from 2007 till right now of growing e-commerce in India and educating customers and and for the last couple of more than 2 years, sellers of using internet to grow business has been really captivating. I think it'll be a good discussion. We had a short discussion before this, so looking forward to it.
My name is Vivek Gaur, and I'm co-founder of Yepme, which is our own private label. We primarily sell online, and we are also now getting into omni-channel. Thank you.
Hi, this is Rameswar. So I'm from this company called Vunik. So Vunik is India's largest personalized shopping app for every woman. At present, we are catering to around 7 million women customers in India. I take care of business development, seller ecosystem, and fulfillment in Vunik.
This is Ranjan Kant. I am the Chief Marketplace Officer for Jabong. My e-commerce colleagues have very well explained what e-commerce in India is about. We focus exclusively on bringing the best of fashion to Indian customers.
I'm the director, No Exit Clothing Private Limited. We are currently an offline retailer having retail stores in Amritsar, Jalandhar and Chandigarh. And our core strength is selling fashion.
Hi, I'm Kunal and I head the brand Being Human. We are a young 3-year-old brand and growing fast. It's a global brand and we started our brand from Spain and Belgium. We moved to the Middle East and post that we've entered into India. And the USP of my brand is celebrity, charity and fashion.
Hello, hi. I am Pradyuman Raina. I had Lotto business and business development for SSIPL Group. SSIPL Group is into the basically 3 key businesses. One is manufacturing. We've got manufacturing facilities in northern India where we manufacture sportswear shoes for leading international brands. We are into business of retailing, which is a hardcore retail business since last 20 years. We run around more than 400 retail stores for different brands pan-India. And we are into licensing business. We run Lotto brand in India as a licensing partner for brand. It's an Italian sportswear brand. And apart from having our offline presence across India, we are into online retailing also. And foraying into multi-channel aspects of the business, as well as surging ahead for the omni-channel business, where we see that the synergies and future retail is moving towards. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Niranjana. I'm a director at RMKB Silks. We've been in the business of selling silk saris for the past 92 years, and I am the 4th generation in my family to step into this business.
Hi, I'm Rohit, representing Genesis, which is into software for core operations for retail businesses, as well as manufacturing brands.
Good evening, I am Sanjay, and we have retail chain called Ritu Wears into fashion retail in the north part of India.
Good evening. Myself Sandeep Jalan. I am from Soham Sopi, Guwahati. We have got a retail store in name of Soham in entire Northeast.
Hi, I'm Sumit from Saffron Lifestyle based out of Ahmedabad. We have about 100 retail stores and we partner with brands like Nike, Tommy, Benetton, amongst others.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarvesh and I represent Tata's e-commerce division. I had lifestyle there. At Tata's, we are generally trying to build first of the omni-channel marketplace business model, while a few of the points we'll discuss when Barry and Arvinder will be taking it forward from here. Thanks.
Hi. Aman, can you do the introduction for the offstage panel?
Hi, my name is Aman Mittal. I'm the CEO with a hypermarket chain called SaveMax Wholesale. We're primarily based out of northern part of India, now expanding into other states and obviously looking at digital presence also.
Hi, my name is Sunny. I'm representing Blue Club. I'm basically a 2nd generation into business. It's a family store catering to more than 45 categories to consumers.
Hi, I'm Shambhav Chauhan, representing Joy Blue. We are a company of 52 physically present stores, and we are spreading across India. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rajesh Ganshani. I come from a family of retail. We started retail 55 years back, and we started our own EBOs and a small brand called Blue Tonic. We have 3 EBOs, and we are wholesaling across India. We are manufacturing and retailing.
Myself, Jagdish Purohit. I head Akbar Ali's Men. We have recently modified in from a departmental store to a lifestyle format store, an MBO from boys to men.
Great.
Hi, I'm Ishwar, founder Setu Retail. We are one of the leading sellers of apparels on all the marketplaces.
I'm Dharmesh Patel from Mumbai. We are about to complete 3rd decade in retail.
Hi, I'm Ayush Mehra, Director Study by Janak. This is the 3rd generation, and we operate about 1 lakh square foot of occasion wear and made to measure brand.
Great. Thanks a lot for all the introductions. Since we have taken about 20 minutes just for the introduction and it's such a big panel, what we'll do is we'll restrict ourselves to only 5 questions which comes to the conclusion of how we're moving from e-mall to omni-channel and how we can collaborate this success. So the first topic which I thought we should discuss is all about the consumer. How are we serving the connected consumer today who is device agnostic, channel agnostic, location agnostic? Kapil, if you could have your thoughts.
So I believe it's demand supply, it's business intelligence, and it's technology which merges together. It is definitely location agnostic, it is definitely product agnostic. At times it is impulse, at times it is intentional. It is actually about serving the need of the consumer as to how you treat a consumer as a valued consumer. So the consumer puts you a question which is, what is the value that you bring across to me, whether it is convenience, whether it is an offer, whether it is availability, whether it is the width, or it is about the experience overall, that you're serving my need at the last minute, serving it to me at my doorstep, and giving me a try and buy option as well. The try and buy factor currently is what keeps an offline and online experience separate. So that is where I believe being omni comes into play. It is also in the favor of the seller to expand their horizon beyond the physical presence where the captivity of the consumer is. So a seller selling out of a specific location, let's say South X in Delhi or Chandigarh Sector 17, has a catchment area which is very, very specific to these 2 places. Now there is a seller who's probably willing to buy that product but based out of Chennai. How do I do that? That is where Omni, I believe, will come into play. And I think it is the synergies between offline and online, both that have to work together to serve the need of the end consumer end of the day, whether he's sitting right at the doorstep or he's sitting at his home trying to buy.
Sure. So Gurpreet, taking on to you, you're an offline retailer. I know you have stores in Punjab. Kapil can talk about it because he has a 24/7 online store. People can shop. How are you tackling this consumer who's more connected from an offline retail perspective, which has drawbacks in terms of shop opening times and shop closing times?
So currently we are only selling offline, but as you all know that it's imperative for every offline retailer to be available online as well, because sooner or later the consumer is not going to be always available to come to your store and buy. So what we intend to do is take whatever product we are selling online to the online platform as well. And also it will be nice if there could be some kind of a synergy between the offline and online retailers, and if both people could understand that the offline guy has invested money in establishing infrastructure, the online has invested money in establishing his infrastructure. So if the online guy could get the order and deliver it through the offline guy, I think it will help both of them. For a consumer visiting the offline store, maybe he'll come and he'll see something that he didn't intend to buy, that will add on to his experience as well. And for the online guy, it helps him in terms of delivering, saving on his delivery costs, getting the consumer more satisfied, giving him a better experience. Because in the totality, if you see, the offline and online together will make one complete experience for the shopper.
Sure. Ranjan, coming to you. Ranjan, How are you seeing this evolvement of consumer happening, and how do you think people like Gurpreet can partner with you to give this connected consumer some kind of great experience?
So, if you look at it, when online actually started, everybody thought who would ever buy a bed or a sofa, or coming to fashion, a high-end Tag Heuer watch, for example, from an online store. People would like to experience it first. But what's amazing is people actually buy a lakh-priced Tag Heuer watch off an online store. It happens at Jabong, so for sure. So, but what is also reality is the physical stores are not going away anywhere. I have friends, I'm sure all of you have friends who run to a Shoppers Stop sale whenever it happens. 2 seasons, I guess. So the bigger point is, obviously there is a full synergy of, as Kapil was pointing out, try and buy. The other big part is the customer data, which is, the online players have customer data which I don't think anybody else in India, rest, or even the world possesses right now. And there is a lot of mining happening, especially for making it personalized. I want you to see something online which you buy instantly. Now, for example, if I partner with Gurpreet, and when a customer enters Gurpreet's store, I can actually flash to the salesperson, here is what the customer has bought in the last 6 months. That's pretty amazing, I would think. No? So while omni-channel right now is limited to stuff like saying click and collect, sharing discounts, I think it has to go far beyond it. It has to go to data integration. For example, I know of firms which are doing this. You enter the store, you have a mobile phone, they can tell you exactly what is the loyalty value of the customer, what is the lifetime value of the customer, which salesman attended him last time, him or her, what was the attention span, all of that. Think of that integration with an online channel which puts in the whole customer's buying history into the offline platform. I would think that for me is the vision for omni-channel which we should aim for.
Aman, you run a hypermarket store. Yes. Correct. How do you see this customer, and how are you trying to serve his needs?
Can you hear me? Yeah. See, how we look at this entire omni-channel strategy is probably something what the Times Group did for their media house. Considering the business I come from, the margin architecture which plays out for my kind of business, I am not too sure how I can partner with a third party, an online player, to give that experience. For what we are looking at is how we can integrate seamlessly the online offline experience into our business model and give the same experience to the customer end to end. So for example, I'll give you, a consumer starts from his home. Probably before the consumer and orders online from the stock available in my store in that catchment. So we define our catchment. Like an online player for whom the catchment is a much larger area, geographical area. Now, before the customer reaches the store, can I pack his goods and keep it ready for him to pick up? But having said that, moment he or she enters my store, can I further upsell to that person? Because understand, until and unless it is known that the moment the customer enters the store, physically enters the store, he or she definitely picks up more stuff, probably 2x, as most of us would agree. So, but the challenge is, what we are trying to work out is, how do I give the customer that additional reason to themselves travel to my store and pick it up or pick up the packet on their own? Because we would like, because of the margin architecture, we would like to reduce the logistics cost and let the customer bear it. So we are trying to build up our experience wherein the store can be experienced sitting at home. Still, the customer would need more, all the more reasons to come to my store and pick it up. So seamlessly integrating and owning the end-to-end platform on our own. It's like, you know, you own the media, you own the newspaper, you own the TV, and you own the online and outdoors also, what Times Group has done for themselves.
Sure.
So we will have to do it ourselves completely, end-to-end.
Thanks. Sarvesh, everybody is waiting for Tata Unistore to come up, okay? It's the first omni-channel platform which is going to come. So how are you seeing your consumer into your platform who's going to come and shop from you guys?
Hello, yeah. Sure. See, I heard a couple of panelists. First thing is that at Tata Unistore, we are not differentiating any consumer. For us, there is no online consumer, offline consumer. It's a just different time need. Imagine you are in a mall and you liked some shoes and you realize that shoe size is not there with you. What will happen? That seller has a potentially lost a sale and that consumer is unsatisfied. But if you are tied up with some omni platform like Tata Unistore, where immediately it gives a solution that look, at this store it is not there, but nearest to your pin code or whatever your place is, there you can get this delivered from our same brand store, or somebody else can deliver to you. Immediately both consumer loyalty and consumer satisfaction and increased sale happens for the brand. So I think that is what overall I'll say, that we are trying to build an ecosystem where instead of saying that we are going to dominate this market, we are trying to complement an offline retail network with the consumer who is evolving, who's moving to some smarter devices. We are in a busy schedule. Say, for example, morning, you are in office you place some order to gift somebody. Can that be served by somebody who is tied up with our network? So, in short, we are trying to utilize, leverage whatever retailers or real estate asset is there on the ground with our platform.
Which brings to our next question, saying that, you're talking about online, offline, the consumer is evolving. But we also have some pure play online retailers over here. We have seen in the West that pure play online retailers have faced the heat. People like Fab.com, which had loads of money, $200 million valuation, got sold at $8 million. People like Warby Parker, Bonobos, all these guys are opening store. So what's the take from the pure play online retailers? How do they see themselves evolving with this consumer? Kinshu, you want to start?
So I think a lot of people talked about how consumer experience is the most important. I think what is important to realize is that we are here as consumer companies solving for customer. We need to understand the customer better. We need to solve for their information as well as their fulfillment needs. Whether it's through an existing infrastructure of retail or distribution network, or it's through a completely online adoption. So over the past couple of years, I think if you look at multiple marketplaces, the scale at which we have grown the number of small businesses that sell online has tremendously increased, which has given a huge lift to the amount of selection that is sold on our websites. It also meant a lot of exposure to small businesses and how they can leverage internet to grow their business, to acquire new customers, and to solve and basically fulfill that promise of delivery. This entire experience over the last 2 years has told us that probably a multi-channel approach will be different for different business models. There are product categories which lend themselves very well for e-commerce. There are product categories which lend themselves much better for a very localized kind of commerce. There are businesses which, for example, a manufacturer have that kind of margin or that kind of financial backing to essentially give out the kind of cost that it takes for managing an online business right now in India. And then there are other business formats for which it might not work out. What a customer wants and who that customer is and what are we trying to solve for them might mean different things for people playing in different categories and people having different business models. And it is essential to recognize that what works for us. It is therefore, I think, at a stage where we are not seeing a lot of movement towards omnichannel. We are seeing that as of right now, a lot of us are trying out things which work and learning from those experiences that might or might not work in the long run for omnichannel. So I think that's pretty much.
But what India wants to know is, will Flipkart open a retail store like Amazon?
At Flipkart, I have learned that we should never say never to something.
Okay.
But
that's a politically
not
correct
in the next
answer.
1 or 2 years, maybe.
Okay. Vivek, what's your take on this?
Yeah, so we consider ourselves as a brand company, and ultimately at the end of the day, whether it's online, offline, or anything else, or trade, finally at the end of the day, it's a touch point for the customer. And if it's a touch point for the customer, you should provide it. When is the brand ready to provide various touch points is for the brand to decide. What is the scale it has reached at which it will decide to actually give another touch point at which it can reasonably make more money than the previous distribution channel is the point at which you would decide to give another touch point. So from our point of view, I think we would possibly be ready to move into it. We've started a single location out of Gurgaon, and we are getting good traction from there. And one of the things that we've seen on the dipsticks that we've done on a fortnightly basis is that 75% of the people who bought from us never visited the site, but they knew about the brand. So that is the core thing that we are trying to build. So we built a brand over a period of time. The best thing to do at that time was to sell online because you wanted to reach out to tier 2, tier 3, the underserved market, and hence online afforded you to do that. Now that you have built the brand, you should try and build more distribution options. So for the physical brands, it's time to build the online option. For the online brand, it's time to build the physical option. And I think the difference between online and offline is when an online brand goes and opens an outlet in an offline scenario, it already knows that what that city is actually consuming of its own brand. So if I open a store in, say, Bikaner, I already know for last 3 years what I've been selling in Bikaner. So that gives a bit of a head start, and then analytics and the other things that people talk about. So summary is, we are a brand. A brand has to increase its touch points. What point you want to take from online to offline is more a commercial decision of where you think the channel would be more profitable, and make the move based on that.
I think Harminder has a question.
Not the question, I think I just wanted to add to Vivek's point on that business is all about the brands and business is all about the products and services which we are offering. And this question in terms of where to start from, and having worked in the fashion industry for a very, very long time, I know that for somebody like Vivek to start an offline business like he has been able to do in case of online would have been near to impossible to build a 200, 300 crore business in a couple of years across India. One, that would have been impossible, so great place to start from. But to take it now from here to 2,000 crore or even 20,000 crore, which may look like an exaggerated number today, but that's just $3 billion, so there are enough brands across the world. So I think that's quite possible. And second point in terms of market being ready for this or not, we have seen it time and again across categories that consumers are absolutely okay with buying from anywhere. Not everybody is ready to buy from everywhere, but they are open to try, they are open to look at it. And price being the biggest issue, sometimes when we look at the marketplaces and every time we talk about online, we talk about the discount, and then we think about if these people have to go offline, how are they going to make it happen? Because they are able to do it efficiently because they do it only online. But I think the next step is going to be clearly this, that the consumers will start understanding that why they buy offline, why they buy online. And if offline is great experience for them, they need to pay for it. And if online is great convenience for them, they need to pay for it. But there is no way, there is no chance in hell that consumers will come out and say, guys, you are giving me great experience, please charge me extra. You are giving me great convenience, why don't you take a couple of ₹100 extra? I think the responsibility is on the people on the dais and off the dais who are in this business. So start asking for that. I pay ₹30 every time to PVR for booking a ticket. When I book 4 tickets, I pay for 4 tickets. I never protested, right? But I'm getting great convenience. I didn't get into a discussion with PVR, oh, because you are saving so much money because I buy online, you don't have to print it, blah, blah, blah. Your seat gets sold. They say, forget about me. You don't come here, you don't have to pay for parking. You get the seat you want and you come and just walk into the theater, pay ₹30 for that. As a family, pay 120. And I do that. So I think that's where the shift has to come in. And this whole thing about discounting, I wanted to bring this to it because people have been playing it pretty soft even when we are playing there. This is an issue, that how this new industry has tried to change the rules of the business, right? The new technology has tried to change the rule of the business, but not with as much fairness as one would have expected if they didn't have so much money in their pockets. So when you are addressing this, please do address this part also.
Yeah, so coming to your point, at this point of time, we are already a 300 crore company, and we are, Being Human is offline, online, it's with all the verticals. What I need to tell you here is that when we started with all the online partners, we saw that there was so much discounting happening, and everybody was complaining about the brand, that there's discounting happening and all of that. At this point, a year ago, we stopped all our discounting on all the fresh products. we completely stopped the discounting and we fell from number 1 position in all those online players straight to number 15. But that did not stop my brand from growing into my offline stores. Today I have an online presence in US. I've opened an online store in the US shipping. I have an office in New York. I have an online presence in Europe, so which is beinghuman.eu. I have stores all across the globe. So I have a total 60 stores, and I feel that my vertical, which is my offline vertical, is doing much better than my online presence, and that is only because of the kind of customer satisfaction which I'm trying to give all my people there. And I have really seen to it that every brand which is in my brand mix has only done this whole thing only because of discounting. Today, however you talk about an evolved customer, this whole term that customer has evolved, and today I read a research somewhere that 6% of business has been lost, potential revenue has been lost because omni-channel was not there. I mean, where are all these figures coming from? 6% potential revenue. Today, try and understand that every brand who's doing great numbers is only because of discounting. However bad it may sound, but it is a fact. So we need to really understand that where are we getting this? Today, offline retail has to complement the online. It can never become larger than thing. People can start doing great numbers on online, but the actual bottom line comes only from your offline store. And we have proved that in 3 years, we've done over 300 crores. That's my NRV. So that's really something which I have achieved. My online sale is only 8% of my total turnover. So.
Great. Talking of complementing each other, so in UK, Boots and ASOS has done a tie-up where you can place an order on ASOS, pick it up from Boots. So how are the online guys leveraging the strength from the offline guys, and the offline guys trying to leverage strength from the online? Rameshwan, your thoughts?
First of all, like regarding the offline and online stores, like both have to be present, because in Vunic, when we see a customer from Northeast India placing an order and we saw that we cannot service this pin code, it gives a bad feeling to all the employees of Vunic, because definitely that brand cannot open a store in Northeast India. That's the limitation where offline stores have. So out of maybe 39,000 pin codes of India, maybe the biggest brands of India can operate or have offline stores where we can do omni-channel or all the new initiatives in maybe 5,000 pin codes. So rest 34,000 or 35,000 pin codes, these customers need that products. So to provide them, that is where the e-commerce still is playing a role and will continue to play a role. And complementing this business, yes, in the tier 1 cities, to start with maybe all the metros, the omni-channel is going to succeed. Let it be like a customer walking into a Puma store and doing a home delivery in the Puma store, because Puma, it's a simple thing, like the Puma store can give all the new stocks in the stores and can give the old stock at some percentage discount in the online store. And the loyalty points which the customer earns in an online store, that person can redeem in an offline store. So this is where the omni-channel is going to play a big role in India in the next 1-2 years. That is in the tier 1 cities. But in the tier 2, tier 3 cities where the payment system has not evolved, still the 70% of the transaction is cash on delivery. Like omni-channel will take a lot of time with all the payment system, logistics system slowly coming up in the next 2 to 3 years.
Thanks. Kinshu, I know Flipkart has recently started that I can pick a product. When I place an order on Flipkart app, I can pick the order from a nearby store. So that's like click and collect. So any other omni-channel strategies that you guys are integrating with the offline guys?
So like I earlier said, we are experimenting with multiple models. We are checking what works and what does not. And a basic early learning is that, like I said before, that different kind of models would probably apply themselves better to different kind of product categories and different kind of businesses. To give you an example, probably selling an FMCG, let's say a soap, which costs about 50, 60, 100 rupees at max, shipping it from one part of the country to another does not make sense at all. It makes a lot more sense that we leverage the existing supply chain that exists in the offline market and work with a local retailer, let's say in the destination or wherever the customer is present, and ship to the customer locally. Whereas there are some products where it makes a lot more sense to inventorize and keep the entire inventory in just a single location, because that way the complexity of managing inventories in multiple locations when managing inventory itself is a very hard science to do, that complexity is reduced. So yes, we are talking about multiple such experiments. We are seeing what works better. How does conversions change? How does our SLA of delivering a product to the customer changes? But yes, I think it's an interesting viewpoint to build over the next couple of years and probably design on that.
Yeah, because in UK, for example, click and collect works fantastically well because shipping is charged. In India, we have spoiled the consumer by giving total free shipping. So, what is the reason why a consumer would do click and collect, go all the way to a mall, pay the parking charge, go to that store? Sarvesh.
Barry, we have to look at this not only from click and collect. I think for India, return to store could be a better option in Omni, instead of saying that consumer will go and collect from that particular store. For example, you purchase from website X and you go back to a physical store which is nearby to you in case of any conflict. A trust builds for that particular website. Now coming to another question, see Boots and ASOS. Now ASOS was fashion, fast fashion website, and Boots a medical store. Now they have merged together a very unique kind of consumer set. ASOS, a young consumer, they are bringing, and Boots realized they were not getting young consumer in their physical store. So they tied up with ASOS. Suddenly they have a lot of youth population coming into their stores. They got additional walk-in in those stores. I see if that kind of smart consumer classified offline, online marriage can happen very well in India. For example, if a brand X, which is physical offline, and they are not able to get new set of consumers, they can definitely go and tie up with a website which is only offering to youth consumers. Similarly, you can take a cut of price point, you can take a cut of whatsoever you want.
So coming to the answer now, let's shift it to the offline retailers. Yeah.
Sometimes when we talk about the future and talk about the new concept, it just struck me that Sears routinely used to deliver to the local drugstores across America for the people who will come from nearby smaller places to pick it up over the weekend or whenever they want to. That was happening maybe 100 years ago.
Yeah, correct.
Right, so now when you think about it, we are again talking about something similar on those lines. So it's not about a drugstore who is selling medicine and ASOS which is selling fashion. It is about a delivery point, right? So it could be our post offices, or it could be a medical store, or it could be even some lady under that multi-level marketing system in a building who will start collecting packets for everybody and start giving it to them. So I think the whole thing about is, and I say that online retail is just the next step in the organized retail, because in India organized retail didn't happen, started happening and online has come in. So they are like telescoping into each other. Otherwise in the US, organized retail happened, had 50, 70 years of free run, and then the online came in, and the online thrived on it, both are surviving. In India, they are all merging into each other. So many things, we have the opportunity to do it differently. We don't have to see it as it has happened in the Western world, because they are doing exactly, they looked at their past, and if you really go and ask some of these people, they will remember, because for me, it was, certainly struck me. Because I have not lived in America, I don't know about Sears, I have read and references somewhere, there is not a life experience, it's just learned experience. So that's why it only strikes me now, but most of those people will say, that's how it used to be, and this is how it is. That's how you leverage physical and non-physical space. Catalog, Sears catalog was like, rather than going digital, I think it was a fairly large catalog. Or if you look at Argos catalog in UK, which is like some 60,000 items in the catalog. So they still do all of that. In India, I believe we have an opportunity in the absence of not having the organized retail, physical organized retail, and taking the whole thing to online and combining these two factors. We have got a very, very unique opportunity, and lesser we look at the Western world, I think better off we will be. Because otherwise, even to repeat their mistakes, forget about their success, I don't think we have those elements available there. So many times I hear this argument that what is happened there and how it's going to happen. So in this particular case, my belief is that we will have to think of models which are, maybe probably even today we are not even thinking, incapable of thinking because of being stuck in looking at all the time. All the technology, all the investors, all the successful model are being copied from there, and I think that's becoming a limitation in terms of our thinking when we are trying to look for an answer here.
Hello.
Yeah, Pratibha.
I think online explosion has created a dramatic shift in the consumer preferences. And whatever we offered in an online platform to the consumer, that's how it reacts. And an Indian consumer may be dramatically different than the consumer out of the country, in other parts of the country. How much discounting we go ahead in the online, that's how the response and the effect would result into. But at the same time, while there are three different entities which are into this business at this level of e-commerce platform, we have a brand at one place, we have the distributors like the friend sitting over here around me, and then we have a online partner who is operating or servicing the product. Unless and until there is not synergy and there is not unification in terms of understanding the business viability at each point, we cannot expect that the things will thrive for n number of years and it will continue to flourish like this. We have, in the onset, that's what is right now happening, and now it has started controlling to some extent. We have ruled out the normal sense of business of 100 minus 40 is equal to 60. When we are overruling that, and then we still figure out that we can continue it. I don't agree that this will continue for a long time. Unless and until the discounting is not controlled, customer will love whatever is offered to him. Customer will love to buy the product for free. But at the end of the day, if we have to see a marry between offline and online, or between or working on a omni-channel thing, which is something which we look at that, okay, this is a controlled way of doing business. We have discounting in our control. Whosoever is partnering with this, they have a discounting under control. You have prospects for to build mutual synergies across the platform. So a few days back, I was talking to some specialty sports retailer, and one thing he was excited about, that offline, that online, if it is in conjunction with the brand, that whatever offer is being run at on the online platform, and customer walks into me with the same, asking for the same thing at the offline store, and I'm able to give that, my business has increased 2.5 times. Some product which he was selling 100 units in a month, and with the scheme going on at online, and he was given the same scheme at the offline retail store, he could increase it from 100 to 250. And that's how, and he was happy about it. I don't want to name the brand, but it was something which was very controlled and systematic way of doing the business and helping each other to thrive.
So Gurpreet, talking about marriage, what Pradyuman said, what kind of offsprings do you envisage if you have a marriage with an online retailer? So what are the strengths where you think you can leverage from these guys? What's the support you want from them? How do you see these alliances evolving?
I think this, at a store level, what we are doing in terms of digital, we are working out enhancing the consumer experience by having the tablets, by having digital screens, so that consumer can buy the product, can go through the product. If he is trying the product within the retail store and he finds that particular size is not there or particular color is not there, I like a particular T-shirt when I walk into the store, but I don't have the color size and the color which I like. So I have in certain select stores, we have a tablet over there, and there is inventory of more than 100 stores which is available on that tablet, and he can click on that, select it, and it gets delivered to his doorstep. Sure. At the same time, when we are talking about online, purely where we are doing, in some brands we are doing multi-channel, as I mentioned, and online is a key business channel in that. So to have long-term sustenance, it's very important to understand the basic commercial working of your supplier. As my friend said, these manufacturers have margins and they can play around with that. But at the same time, if that works out, so time is not far when online will be only running around with just labels, and the brands will be shopping offline or platforms like that.
Gurpreet and Sandeep, you run retail chains. What's your point of view on this? What strengths do you want to leverage on?
I agree with him partially on some of the things. I don't agree that brands will be offline and the private label will be offline. I feel everybody can coexist. The only thing required is there needs to be a common standard. I agree with him that a consumer who goes online, let's say buy the next product at a 40% off, there's no problem if the same 40% off is also available at the offline store. Because at the end of the day, it's the consumer who should be the first priority in all our mind, whether I'm an offline or online. We should all try and standardize the equation for the consumer. Now here, that's where the brands really come into play. I appreciate Kunal's point that at Being Human, because I've worked with them, so I've seen that they did really control the discounting, and we never had that problem, barring one season. Now, if the brands can come out with a clear-cut policy, whether it's a Nike or a Jack & Jones or a Benetton or anybody, and they come out with the policy that, okay, listen, we're going to sell it to the consumer, be it through offline, be it through online, or be it through a mix of both. There's no problem, but let's try and make the experience very, very uniform for the consumer so that he shouldn't be thinking, okay, if I'm buying from my city, it's going to cost me this. If I'm going to buy from that outlet, it's going to cost me that. Let's try and make it very clear. We use the online guys to reach out to the consumer. We use the offline guys to give him a better experience, give him a better fulfillment. I mean, and everybody's happy in that case, So it's as simple as that.
Sure. Sanjay, you run a couple of retail stores in north of India. So if tomorrow one of these online retailers comes, Jabong, Wunik, and says, I want to place my kiosk, let's do some kind of alliance over here. How do you see this relationship working? Do you think it's a long-term relationship?
I would say the vice versa. I would give my inventory to them, to showcase on their website, and then bring the customer to me with click and view or click and pick or maybe ship it back. I would be open to that, and we have some discussions going on like this, but future is going to be there. We can't deny the fact as an offline retailer that this online habit which the consumer has developed is, not going to affect our business. We have to be part of it. And how we connect in this is going to be a different thing, because as a fashion retailer, there's a different equation going to work out. And if it's an FMCG, it's going to be a different equation. And building a brand, or like you said, some of this companies shut down in US after some 20 million valuation is exactly because they could not build the brand on offline. Brand building experience and all that has to be given by offline only, not by online. So I think it's going to be a marriage, and we have to go find a solution for getting it done.
Sandeep, you have a store in Guwahati, correct? A northeast area, which for even online retailers is a tough catchment area to capture. What alliances do you seek from these guys? How can you help them grow their business and eventually grow yours as well? Because you want more walk-ins coming into you want more orders coming into your store.
Basically, we are looking after the additional sale, additional footfall, what we can get from the online business.
Okay, fair enough. Coming back to the online guys, we have seen mobile revolution happening. Mobile 2.0 should be the next revolution. How do you envisage this mobile 2.0 revolution coming? Kinshu?
I think while we are talking of customers and their experience, we should also recognize the fact that today e-commerce in the last few years has succeeded because the generation that has started buying online is a generation that is really comfortable with the internet. It is really comfortable with transacting online, interacting online. They're very active on Facebook, and a lot of these ecosystems have developed. 10 years from now, the generation, or probably earlier than that, I'm probably saying 10 years, a long horizon, I'm saying probably 5 years or less than that, the generation that will start transacting will be a lot more comfortable using a handset than a desktop. And there'll be inherent benefits of doing that. A, they'll be used to that form factor. B, they would be expecting a location-based service. It will not remain a benefit, it will become a hygiene element of probably a shopping experience that the place where I'm buying from knows my location. They'll be used to engaging with content, sharing with friends, talking to each other, a lot of social angle to it, that entire experience is built for mobile. And which is where I think we have to recognize that investment as well. A lot of effort that, for example, Flipkart right now puts is towards building the mobile proposition and how social can help, how getting a lot more people engaged with the product can help, how can they share with each other. A lot of these are going to be pretty much like the website that we own, the kind of traffic that we are able to develop. This will be a core strength of folks who would be investing in mobile experience over the next 5 or 7
Vivek,
years.
you mentioned some time back you have a lot of data, you guys mine a lot of data. So what is mobile 2.0 revolution for you guys?
Sorry, I didn't get that.
So I'm saying, how are you mining the data? How are you making it more personalized, customized? What are the new technologies that we are going to see on mobile from your guys?
I think mobile is a device where you can talk to that, you can look into that, you can take a picture. So I'm saying mobile will be a device, and plus it's a personal screen. Like somebody was saying that even in, say, US, it's not a totally analogous situation. There are large houses which have several television sets, etc. In Asian houses, the houses are small with a single television. So the privacy of using it is much lower in an Asian household per se. So a desktop, I think in long term, we are already at around 20% on desktop. I think in the long term, desktop would become more or less irrelevant from the core customer point of view. As far as app and this thing is concerned, it's split 40-40 between app and mobile side. We prefer people to come onto the app because we know where the device is getting logged in from, what is the kind of device ID he has, what is the handset that he is using. We can actually integrate SDKs which actually help you to deliver images in an encrypted manner. They get decrypted, so the image requirement in terms of data is smaller. Then you know what he's looked for last time. You can rearrange the products based on that. So the kind of things that you can do on the app is significantly more than you can do on the mobile side. Because on the mobile side, it's fairly that you only know at best his last cookie and stuff like that. So I think the way we see it as if the brand is strong and it has a reason to solve the problem, people will shift to app. Currently, it's 40% for us. My sense is that in a year and a half time, it will be 60 to 65%. And it's such a new phenomena. When we started our business, and in 2012, in September, I went to San Francisco for a conference, which was a mobile-first conference. At that time, it looked like a buzzword that it's never going to happen. And today, there is no desktop pretty much which is of any major relevance to most online players. I think the change that is going to happen is going to be more and more personalized. And I think that is the challenge, that whether you're online and offline or any other way you are touching the person, the personalization has to be of a degree that actually makes him feel that it's for him. So there are various things that we are doing around the whole thing of personalization. You could even have the impact of we are launching a new feature where it's hot or not. So if your friend says these are the products that those are hot, and the same products are also added to that selection, and then you can see that your friend, which are the hot products in that. So this is the kind of personalization possible in an app is on a scale of 100 is say 80. On mobile side is say 40. In case of desktop, because it's used by different people, different browsers, different cookie setting, is not even 10. So I don't think desktop is going anywhere down other than.
Ranjan, how would you see it? Your competition went with an app-only strategy. You still continue to have a desktop site, mobile site, app. And with the omni-channel coming into play in the background, how do you see this revolution coming? What are the changes that we foresee? Also, you're part of Rocket Internet Group, which you get a lot of learnings from there. And in the Western worlds, if you guys have done something.
So it's interesting. I actually believe, as you put, we are on the crux of a old school and slightly new school phenomena. Let me just, talking of the app-only strategy, at least personally, and thankfully, Jabong doesn't agree with restricting customer choice. So wherever the customer wants to, so we are talking of omni-channel, then I'm not sure why we are restricting desktops or M sites. So that's very clear in my head. More importantly, I think while we are talking of social sharing, etc., I think users are already giving us signals about show me what I want to buy. For example, Uber. That's the most perfect example of that phenomena. They are saying, don't show me 10 taxis, 10 drivers, or who is near my home. When I click a button, tell me the guy who is going to take me to a place. So I think increasingly, as people continue to engage more and more with their devices, the message they are giving us to us online players is, please don't waste my time, show me what I want to buy. And whoever of us gets that right, whether it is through community sharing, whether it is through hot or not, whatever form it may be, I think that person is gonna win. That is my take on
The
mobile
idea is that which is the platform which is best to give the least amount of discovery required by the customer. To my mind, in terms of order of this thing, it's the app followed by mobile site followed by desktop. So I'm saying if the experience that you're going to give is better on the app, that will get adopted, and it all obviously has a bit of a privacy built in.
Sarvesh, you would like to act? You're going to be platform agnostic, only mobile, only app?
No, we are truly omni, so we believe in all mode of touch point.
Okay.
So, see, I personally feel that mobile 2.0 way will be very important for brands, as mobile will be the biggest influencer for individual consumers, and they will also become enabler as well. When I say influencer, say, for example, you are a brand X, you are walking in a mall, and at that time, a consumer who is a loyal consumer to you, he gets a pop-up or he gets some kind of intimation on your mobile, look, this is a new range, or look, this is a new offer, or look, this is a new product which has come into this offline showroom or offline street or offline mall. Chances of consumer converting is higher. Second thing is that mobile will become wallet. Already Paytm and all are there. You are in a mall, you are going there, you have mobile, you got an info that this is my favorite brand is here and there is an offer on my favorite brand. And when I go to the cash till, I need not my wallet, I just scan the mobile and move forward. So I see mobile becoming the most powerful tool for people who are retailers, for people who are online retailers or offline retailers, or for brands.
While mobile becomes powerful, retail stores need to become equally powerful.
Absolutely,
So our offstage panel, we have a gentleman from Study by Janak, Ayush. You want to tell how are you guys evolving? So what is retail store 2.0 strategy for you guys?
Hi. So, to give you all an introduction, I think we are very, very different in terms of retail, where the gentleman sitting on the panel.
Yeah. You can face the audience, stand and face the audience, it will be better.
So, we are completely different. We're completely a made-to-measure and an occasion-wear brand. So, we are the guys who are on the floor dealing with the client, because each client is worth 10 odd lakhs or 15 odd lakhs. And then we are the guys who actually go to the back end and, make sure that the client is serviced very well. So I think where our kind of integration from offline to online comes in is where these guys will, for example, learn, they're still learning. And once they reach a point, I think our scalability will come with them when probably 3 years, 4 years down the line, because right now, I think 95% of my segment, like we're glorified tailors, is still unorganized. So first, offline, we're going to organize that. Once we have those kind of touch points across the states and across, as he said, PIN codes, so probably then the consumer who's shopping online, we will have those kind of drop points where, he can come and pick up a made-to-measure kind of a shirt. That's one. Second is that so, because of the price sensitivity in the markets, for example, there is one friend of mine, he's doing this brand Mr. Buttons with Snapdeal and Flipkarts, and he's doing occasionally well. But the price point is that he's selling an average shirt value of about 800, 900 bucks. There we see a problem where made-to-measure industry is concerned, because, we won't be able to offer that kind of a price point in made-to-measure. So what right now we best as a brand can do is expand our business offline, have the best of the services, engage the consumer coming to us, because he's very, very important to us, because that can, gives us 70% of our revenue. It's a repeated kind of a customer. So to engage him as much as we can inside the store, to give him a better experience, to give him an after-sale service, which is at par with any international standard, would be our game. So, the question right now, I can't answer it properly. Probably we'll learn, And there are a few online players like Purnia Pop-Up, Exclusively.in, who are also segmenting into occasion wear and couture wear. the segment is not very vast, but it's surely picking up, and we also have our hopes alive. Let's see.
Thanks, Ayush. Ayush, if you could pass on to the gentleman from Options. We all know about his store in Bombay, very well-known store. Sir, how are you redefining your store?
So we have not started anything online actually.
Great. That's quite
Also, we see a lot of opportunity here. Still, 80% business is going to remain offline. All right.
Correct. And that's how it's going to be even 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Your point of view, sir?
I think offline players should focus on this trend right now because still there's a huge
So
divide.
if you could just stand and face towards the audience and tell how are you evolving from your retail distribution network?
See, we are more of an online seller actually. But what I feel here now is the offline players should still focus on this trend, delivering experience to customers. Touch points are very important. And online players, more than discount, should move to experience again, selling full price stuff. So these are the challenges I feel right now are there in the market.
Great.
I personally feel in these mobile apps, your e-commerces and all for offline player is just an information to be passed out. If the offline players focus on selling on MRPs as we do in where you don't suffer your bottom lines, I think there could be a collaboration which could help us both. But as long as discounting continues, I don't see a hope where we could sit together.
Right now we are making you sit together, but that's a different point.
I think we already available in Flipkart, Snapdeal. I think there is no shying away that we need to be online as well. The consumer chooses, omnipresence. So we'll have to be available everywhere. If I think offline retailer has to survive, he'll have to find modes of technology that are evolving, and he'll have to be with it. So there is no two ways about it. And it's the quicker we realize that, the faster we'll be able to amalgamate. Thank you.
I totally agree with Ayush, the way he has said, when I'm having my presence in all pan-India and I'm having a 52 physically present store and my all consumer is, they want to have that physically involved experience in all the stores. So right now, we may spread our legs online, we may go omnichannel, but right now our entire focus is completely on physically developed stores. Thank you.
We are already present online with a Flipkart in our private label. Online is altogether a different strategy. We need to play with a different pricing role and different discounting model. Whereby if I talk about my offline store, we are more focusing on improving our customer services, how to evolve our HR, how to improve our customer experience. But if I talk about online, we are trying to improve products. We are trying to serve a local products on local basis. We are already present in Flipkart.
So you're present with the same brands and same products, or
with
these are different lines?
with a different brand name. With a private label, we are there in online, and in offline, we are in marketplace, as discussed.
Do we see your offline private label having a store coming up soon?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Aman.
Yeah, hi. Mobile 2.0.
We are at retail store 2.0. We've evolved.
Great. Okay. I'll tell you how we are looking at we generally believe that the offline and online are natural extension of each other. Instead of pitting each one against each other, if you look at how we can work out the synergies, for example, there's a consumer buying, there's a consumer journey which happens before he actually picks the product and reaches home. If digital, instead of online versus offline, if digital and the retail, whether it's online or offline, can work together to understand how we can impact the various touch points in this entire journey, probably we will be able to enhance the consumer experience overall. And then the roles of be it mobile app, be it desktop app, be it the retail store, will evolve, will continuously evolve. For example, what I was telling initially, how we are looking at is how we can map the journey cycle, and then while he travels, how we can give him additional reasons to travel to my store, or how we can give him additional reasons to actually be at home, still purchase from me. But unless I am able to integrate my back end and my front end, but what initially many years back we heard of concepts called backward forward integration. Similarly today, if I am able to integrate my online and offline, probably I'll be able to give an enhanced experience and do a much better business than actually trying to pit myself against a Flipkart or Flipkart trying to pitch myself against me. We try to we have tried, especially because of the business I am in, we have failed to understand how we would be able to share margins with anybody else other than we're doing it on our own.
Sure,
That's
thanks.
now.
Sumit.
So I guess it's about the larger brand engagement, eliminating efforts from the consumer experience, and therefore increasing the buying frequency from customers' point of view is what Mobile 2.0 would mean.
Niranjana, you come from RMKV Skills. How are you evolving your stores?
Well, we launched an online store several years ago, sometime around 2008, 2009, and we've ever since tried to, give a seamless experience to customers. Our biggest challenge is the number of SKUs that we hold in the store. We're not able to give that to the customers, so we're trying to see if we can, engage with them in Skype calls, do those kind of things so that, we're able to expose them to the larger number of SKUs that we have in the store. And we've also instituted a uniform pricing policy so that, it's again seamless for the customers. If something's discounted in the store, it's discounted online as well. So these are some of the things that we're doing to...
Are you also seeing your stores being evolved and new skill sets that you have to teach your sales staff? Because this consumer has changed definitely over the period of time. You guys have been there for a while. But what about culturally? Is there a change that you bring about in your retail stores?
Yeah, especially now that we have an online store. The staff at the store really need to know what's available online, because the customer walks in with a printout of something and they say, I want this. And also the online team needs to know what's available in store so that the customer who calls up and says, can I get this in another color or whatever, so that they can help them out. So we really need, invest a lot into training our staff so that they're able to handle customers, whether they're online or offline or whatever that is.
And you're also doing omni-channel. Are you shipping from stores? Are you doing click and collect?
Yeah, we ship from our stores. I mean, that's not a great challenge for us right now because we are mostly located in the south, and our customers, being a regional player, major customers are, Tamil-speaking people, and maybe to some extent Kannada-speaking people as well, because we're in Bangalore.
Sure.
Also.
If you could pass on the mic to the gentleman sitting on left to you.
Hi, Rohit. So what we are seeing is, so we help usually the offline retailers move online. So with the technology aspects, integrating their offline inventory with the online website. But what we do advise against is, that the online should not just become an inventory dump. Like, okay, because usually we keep hearing this, ki mujhe sab dikhana hai. So we really tell them to go for a more curated selection, or just, try to put up selected pieces online which A, are profitable, and B, for which you can guarantee some stock availability. So these are the basic norms, and otherwise the repercussion is if the customer has to browse endlessly and and order a product which is not there in your warehouse or your stores, so then the outcome would be pretty bad. That's point one. And we are also integrating the offline customer base with the online customer base, linking up their data so that they can get a single view of the customer when they're doing the analytics around that.
Fair enough. Now, since we have only 10 minutes left, I leave it open to the house. If you have any questions specific to any gentleman sitting over here and the lady sitting over here.
Hi, I'm Swarandeep. It's nice to hear that the online and the offline players are going to integrate. But I would like to know all the major e-mall players or the online players, say how you are going to integrate, what are the challenges are there, what are the obstacles are there, and how much time it's going to take to integrate with the brand houses, the EBOs, the MBOs, how it's going to be integrated.
I think the world is moving towards frenemies. So they have your friend and enemy. So you have to live with the dichotomy that the same guy is a friend and an enemy. We sell on other online platforms. We sell on Myntra, Jabong, Flipkart. For the same customer, we bid for the same thing in the auction. So I think somewhere people have to decide that it's finally you can take the best what they can offer, and they can get the best what we can offer. So for example, in our case, we will get a full view of all the customers who are online to at least have our brand. Otherwise, if we say, oh, I'll only sell on yepme.com because that's my website, I'm not going to sell on flipkart.com or myntra.com or any other place, that means I'm losing out on them. They are gaining by the fact that if somebody is coming and you're making your brand salient, somebody is coming and searching Yepme and they can say no result found. That is not a answer a marketplace can do, because finally marketplace is supposed to give solution for anything. For example, people say in China, nobody searches for products on Baidu, they search for products on Taobao. So I'm saying for them, the ultimate thing is that they should become search engine for people shopping. And if that is helped by your brand participating in these platforms, then that is the one that the collaboration will come from. When I met one of the senior guys from Kingshuk's, one of the founders, one of the things that was discussed was that we started listing because there were searches being done on the site for the brand, and hence we had to co-opt the brand. So I think it's all about how, what is the win-win for both of you. The fact of the matter remains that there will be always a friend-enemy situation. So that is that is the 2 cents I can give you. As long as you feel that there is something to be gained from both of you, one should go ahead and get into an alliance, and that's the way it will look. Only one word of caution for people trying to do online on their own: it's a very expensive business. It's better to align with some people. They cannot create the brands. You cannot create the online platform easily. None of them, both of them are doing non-trivial jobs. The job is that been done by Study by Janak is a Study by Janak which nobody can create overnight. It will take 5-10 years. Similarly, it will take 5-10 years to create an online platform. It's not about getting a software, getting your inventory up and running it. It's a business that requires, they have built a brand. You work on their brand. You build a brand, they will work on your brand. It's not as if that they are not open to actually not discounting and stuff like that. So basically, that's the key point. Work on the strengths of each other. The job that these guys are doing is as difficult as the job you guys are doing.
See, just to add on what Vivek said, on a technical side, okay, you have 3-4 kind of datas or 3-4 kind of information which you need to share. First could be your content. Content is basically your photographs and your whatever you write about that. Second could be price and inventory feed. So you have to build the price and inventory feed. Third is order management. How you are managing the order, how much has come, what is not been shipped. If you wanted that kind of information. Okay, so I think these can be again classified at different stages. You have to share these kind of information with a platform like us. These can be either manually done, negatives, inefficiencies, very slow. Second thing is that get APIs developed, improve your system. So you need to invest in your systems, ERP systems. You need to invest in your inventory systems. You need to hire 1 or 2 people who knows about these. Or easiest is that tie up with some third parties who are giving all this to you. So you will, a lot of people are coming out with a solution where you just go to them, they'll do all things for you.
Actually, it is not only the content. When we are talking about how we are going to map the products.
So that is what I said, price and inventory. So inventory, for example,
see, we need to SKU map. It's our style, it's our shade, it's a size.
Probably Kapil, you would like to answer that?
Yeah, so when you call about SKU mapping, it's basically in-store inventory which is in the system and physical, right? That correction possibly is possible with probably RFID, I believe. Your real-time inventory sync is something that definitely needs to work out. It cannot work on a 1-hour lag at best as well when you're doing some kind of an event and the inventory is not real sync. 2, I don't know whether this is 2.0 or 3.0, but definitely to Ayush, I would say that yes, SBJ, probably bespoke tailoring. Yeah, and that's basically pretty significant in developed economies. One is willing to pay $89 to $100 or pounds to get a shirt for his kind of cuff, collar, placket, etc. selection done, which is currently at about 200 rupees, 300 rupees pant that I want to get stitched by my local tailor here, example sake, right? So bespoke is basically probably 2.0 or 3.0 for retail. Mobile, I believe vernacular is the way forward. So when I catch hold of RMKV, for example, so beyond Chennai, what? I have this example of a startup based out of Kerala. I cannot place the name right now, right? But the read I had was there are almost about 100 CR entity just by being local in terms of the language. So the minute you have vernacular, you're expanding your base beyond English, Hindi, and beyond the nationalized languages. That is again another challenge currently.
Sure.
So to answer your challenges perspective, probably it is 3.0, but yes, vernacular is the way to go to expand.
We'll
your
go to the
consumer
next
base.
question. I think Prasad has a question.
Okay, you spoke about SKU mapping. I'll ask about some other mapping. In the first day, someone from Adidas was mentioning this. At the end of the day, you cannot do a consumer mapping if the brand does not get the consumer's journey with the online players. So Adidas cannot say the consumer who walked in my store, what has he purchased on other platforms? Because when you talk about consumers, each of you hold the information dear to you. So frenemies, what do you say, right? This is exactly, India cannot be a true omni-channel unless you actually share the consumer data.
Correct.
And
It
will that
needs
happen?
to.
Is that a nirvana?
And that needs to be a single, because the two basic fundamentals of omni-channel is single view of the inventory and single view of the customer. And till the time you don't achieve that, that's not true omni-channel.
I can guarantee you, if you have a brand which can call the shots and they can't live without you, they would be ready to share that until there's some privacy issue. Because I don't see any reason, if Adidas is not available on the platform, or Nike or 3-4 of the bigger brands, it will be very difficult for them to claim that they're a marketplace and a solution for all. So it's about the relative strength of the brand versus the relative strength of the marketplace. Some of the brands can really carry it off. Probably they're not asserting enough.
Well, this is a clear case. He went on public to, it's about Adidas, and he was quoting Flipkart, just to let you know.
So I'd like to add a little bit to what Vivek earlier said. Just like building a website on its own is a very expensive proposition, having a big data functions inside your organization is an even bigger and an even more expensive proposition to build. At heart, all retailers are technology organizations, and that's why they will invest in that kind of capability and bring out those insights for you. Like Vivek also mentioned, that if it's required and if a brand needs it really, we are happy to share it. But it will be in the forms of insights. It will not be form of raw data, because the volume of data that we generate is in millions of records multiplied by millions of. So there are two different things here. We need to figure out what business are we in. We are in the business of building a technology platform, which is where how the customer navigates through the portal or an app is very important information for us. How a customer engages with your brand is an information that is important for you and which may or may not be as important for us. We are happy to share that information with you. But sharing information of how does the customer navigate through the app, where does he click, where does he go, how does he rate, all of that probably will not add that much value to you.
Sure. We have time only for one last question. Gentleman over there.
I have this question. Hi, my name is Viresh. I have a question for Kenshu. You're representing Flipkart here. I want to know your opinion on discounting controls and discounting regulations. Since we are talking about developing a synergy between online and offline store, it cannot be developed until there's a discounting regulation out there.
So I hear, I couldn't understand the entire question. I heard discounting, and I know that there has been a lot of debate around discounting.
That's what they generally associate with Flipkart at times.
We talk about that these websites, they provide convenience. That's why they are attracting customers. But these customers are more price sensitive, and discounting is actually with attracting these customers. But what is your opinion on discounting control, which every retailer was saying that there should be?
So let me answer this in two parts. First is that there is a very widespread opinion that customers come and transact on Flipkart or any online website only for discounts. I have an inherent different point of view for that. For the first reason is that the kind of investment that goes into A, building the technology, and B, building the supply chain is much more important and much more bigger than actually discounting. Yes, discounting plays a critical role in conversion and first-time acquisition of a customer. But if I share, and I'll not be able to share right now, but if I discuss with you the amount of transactions we do at zero discounts, and I'm sure that brands that are working with us would know that we are always willing to consider a place where we will not be offering discounts. We believe that early stage e-commerce development and market share growth will happen through price discounting, and it has happened like that. Over the longer term though, it will be technology, data, experience, and everything that we just talked about, which will play a much bigger role. In order to build repeat and in order to build consistency in customers' mindshare or building a habit of buying from Flipkart, it's much more important for us to focus on the experience of customer than only a price discount. If you imagine, a customer who comes to us for discount will also be willing to go to another portal for a heavier discount tomorrow. And we recognize that. We understand that that is a problem with discounting, which is why a lot more focus within this organization and the organizations that I have a chance to interact with in e-retail have focus on building the capabilities which solve for it. For instance, the kind of supply chain investment and the kind of data technology, we just talked about data, right? The big data investments in order to show insights, show recommendations to you based on your preferences is a lot more bigger focus area for us as opposed to discounting.
So I guess that's it. So if you have to just sum it up, I think the technology development has fundamentally disrupted the retail industry, and that disruption has happened because the consumer has evolved today, because the way he communicates, the way he shops, the way he buys, the way he pays, it's all changing. Brick and mortar stores are here to stay. Globally, it's about 91% of sales right now. Even 5 years down the line, it'll be about 83%. However, online is where the growth is coming in upwards of about 40%. Who will win in the future? I think it's going to be a collaborative effort, and the people who transform will be the winners. Thanks a lot, gentlemen. Thanks everybody for being here and being a very patient audience. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Well, online, offline, lots of questions, quite a few answers and lots of food for thought.